Good morning everyone and welcome. Yes, my name is Arafire and welcome back to another episode of All Talk, No Shock. So as we know, it's TFCon time in Toronto and I would have thrown this video out yesterday going through some of the third-party reveals that came out, but I actually fell asleep by the time it got released and I was heading to bed anyway. I like to get those videos out as soon as possible, and when it's Toronto it's actually not too far behind me, so I can try and get them out. If it's Los Angeles I do tend to struggle. But let's have a look at some of the third-party reveals we saw at TFCon. Now, of course, some of these we have seen and we're just getting kind of more images of, but the first one that come across is Mecca Invasion, and we've seen some of these, but maybe haven't had quite so many poses or articulation shots. So first we get is Scrapper in ARM mode, but also when we go along we see their version of Mixmaster in an ARM mode as well, and this is going very Scramble City. We've got bots that would typically be the legs of Devastator actually going to be the arms of Devastator, which I like. Maybe this shows an all-in-one feature, perhaps. Maybe it's a plug-in hand. It doesn't look the biggest hand in the world, so maybe if you look at Mixmaster, maybe the hand does exist within the cement trailer, perhaps. I do like them. I said this before at the time. These do remind me of the Devastator that I've got, the Generation Toy one, the Gravity Builder. Particularly when you look at Scrapper, there's a lot of shared engineering. I think it's not to say that's a bad thing. I think it's a style they want to go for. Quite, I don't know, steampunk's the right word. It's very machine orientated. You see a lot of pipes, you see a lot of tubing and highlights on grey accents, which I like. It's not just solid green, it's not just hypertoon accurate. It gives a little bit of a real world feel. The blue, the misted blue paint on the cabs on both of them I do like. I think that gives a nice little touch to it. Again, looking at the robot modes, it looks very similar to the Gravity Builder version. The feet look quite similar, as do the thighs. Now, I'm not going to go down my little tin hat theory route of saying this is Generation Toy just striking again. It could be, it could not be. I don't know anything about this company. Working to the assumption it's Masterpiece scale, and if we're going to go big Masterpiece scale, true MP combiner scale, the Generation Toy one comes in arguably chug scale. But I like how it looks, shows a nice little crotch thrust and ab crunch as well. This is going to be an arm bot, so you do expect a little bit more articulation to that end, but it looks quite cool. Moving on, Mechanical Skull Studio. We've seen this before with their Armada Starscream. So it's only a silhouette, but it's a fair guess that this is going to be Generation 2 Megatron. You look at the image in the very top left corner, it looks very similar to the Marvel comics and how you would see that wider headstock, the armor cannon, the shoulder cannon, and the tank mode behind it. Now, if their previous release of their Armada Starscream was anything to go by, this is going to be Legend scale. I don't know too much about this company, to be fair. I don't know how many releases they've had out, whether it's just the Starscream they've released before. It's the only thing that we've been teased, but if you're interested, this is a way to go for G2 Megatron. Then we go on to New Age, and somewhat slim pickings for New Age, but they have been working through the Dinobots, as have Magic Square, and this is their Snarl. This is called H67 Varian. It looks very nice, particularly in Dino mode. It's very, very clean. New Age do some amazing paint jobs. I'm not a Legends collector, but I've said before, if I was to get into Legends collecting, I would go with New Age. I think they look so good. The bot mode does look nice. I like the sword that it comes with. Maybe the head's a bit basic. Maybe he doesn't have the stocky vibe, but this is where I come into it with Legends. It doesn't satisfy my itch for having things like Dinobots where I want them big and hulking figures, but I do really like how the dinosaur mode looks. Then going on to Fans Toys. Again, maybe slim offerings for what we could have seen from Fans Toys. There's still talks of other things going on, but the ones we have seen today, or yesterday, are very, very good. Berserk is back. FT21. We are now coming into the 60s. This is a long time coming, but their version of Blitzwing is near ready to go. So what can we say about it? It looks very pinky purple. I think a lot of people have said it's not the right colour scheme for them. I quite like it. I think it's a very attractive one, at least according to these photos. The head sculpt is of course good, lovely red visor, very upset almost face, a very kind of murky face on the go. I can see why Blitzwing gives people trouble, because if you look at it in jet mode, there's a lot there. It's to be expected. I'll give them that. You've got to house a tank and a robot underneath a jet, or in between a jet, and the gaps between the top and the bottom of the wings, it kind of leaves you the only place you're going to put it. I do get a bit disingenuous with it when it comes to seeing bits of other modes tuck away. And you look at the tank mode, I think it's fine. It's a very thin tank turret to the top of it, which may or may not be toon accurate, may or may not be real world accurate. I would say fans' toys are more likely to go towards toon than real world accuracy. The tank treads are not my favourite. I'm a big sucker for having actual tank treads, but again, that's a hard thing to try and add into a figure and put those away when it comes into turning into a plane. I do really like how it looks, but then the patches of purple breaking up the beige colouring just kind of jar me a little bit, and you do see ever so slight hints of it in the reverse in jet mode. It's going to be a very sizable bot. Now, I haven't got this image downloaded, but there is something that you don't have to have the turret on the back of him. You can have the turret coming out the top of his head. And I can't work out why. Why would he have the turret coming out the top of his head? Why wouldn't it always be on his back? But anyway, I do like it. I am tempted to pick it up because I have got the KFC Dicta, very old version, which has done me okay. It's done me fine, but it is a bit old now. And you could argue that Star Toys is the better of the releases, and it's a more modern release. I'm actually tempted to bypass Star Toys and get this one. I'm tempted because I do like that purple. I like that kind of very reflective purple that I'll probably display it in bot mode. So that's going to look very nice, particularly alongside Astra Train. And then fans' toys, we saw your hand, didn't we? We are seeing Marauder, Menasor, completed, combined, and we know how. At least we sort of do. But this is how it's going to get with the last Stuntercon Bandit being released, is going to come with, yep, you guessed it, a secondary trailer for Road King. Some people have already complained about it because this has already been done by DX9, I believe it was. Certainly a previous, I can't remember if it's DX9 or X-TRansbots, I think it was DX9, giving a kind of a bendy trailer to house all of the combining parts. Now, if again I remember with DX9, and I said this before, I think they made you charge for it. I think you had to buy it to finish it, and you paid quite a bit of money. It came with all of the accessories that you needed, but it was cheeky that you had to do so. I guess you don't have to. If this is anything to go by with their Superion, you're just going to pay for Bandit, who's going to cost considerably more. So you are paying for it, I suppose, one way or the other. I don't hate the fact it's a second trailer. I kind of expected it. It shows that you need faux parts, combining parts, otherwise it's just not going to work, or you go down an MMC route, and then if you want these to be more or less the same height, it's going to be so difficult to do. And they played their hand very early with Road King. Road King was made, Motormaster was made, and all of his trailer would fold up into him. So any additional parts they could throw out with Motormaster, they couldn't, because it was already played, so they had to kind of go down this route. It is a little unsightly. I don't think it looks fabulous. I mean, in terms of the trailer itself, it's very panel heavy. Shows the gun and the sword on the side of it. At least it's got like a bendy motion. It's got a bit of a thicker back end, not so clean as the first trailer. I can't see many people buying this to keep it in vehicle mode, so I get it. But likewise, I can say to fans' toys, you were probably only going to do this. I can't see a way that you're going to do it anywhere else. But looking how it looks, you get all your flavours of all the different heads, very much toon accurate or toy accurate, but you also can go down. You can go down a toy route, but I would say it's also a bit of an IDW route as well, with the more thicker shoulder stacks on the side. Menasor was never my favourite. I do like the fact that it comes with blackjack to go on the chest, and actually looking at the images without it, it looks very plain, very basic, and with blackjack on, it does give that more padded out feel. Also, I think people know this anyway, the feet can be round to be the more toon accurate way, with the cars on the back of him, but you can also have the cars still facing backwards but on the front side. And I think that looks Again, arguably maybe toy accurate, I think that just looks a bit more detailed. There's a bit more there. And then we see some very good posing fighting with their Superion. This is very much Fans Toys' way of saying, look, we've done it. We completed combiners and look at the poses you can get them into. And that's very good for posing, considering this is a lot of die cast in here. You're going to get them into some nice one-on-one battles. I will still wait and see. I want to see what the combining frame is going to look like. I'm not saying I'm not tempted to finally go back and go in on the Stunticons. I have a different set of Stunticons that I kind of felt is coming to the end of its life. Again, not being the biggest fan of Menasor, I've never felt the need to go in for it, but I do like how it looks. But I will finish their Superion first before I jump into another Fans Toys combiner. I want to see how that skeletal frame holds up. Is it a nightmare to assemble before I go into another skeletal frame? At least we have some idea as to how the Superion frame is going to fold together. We've sort of seen a promotional video of that. We haven't even seen this secondary trailer of Motormaster open up yet. It will make a frame of one form or another, but we don't quite know how. Maybe it'll be similar, but I'd like to see a little bit more before I decide to commit on that set. And that was it from Fans Toys. No Headmasters, no Fortress Maximus, no anything else really. So that then moves on to Fans Hobby. Now, Fans Hobby have got their clutch that came out. It was a TFCon exclusive. I think it was part of the panels as well. Going into the Generation 1.5. Nice that they're doing this. I do like the look at it. I fully expect these to be available in the wild. I don't see these being a con exclusive. If so, not for too long. I think there was only a limited amount of pieces being made, but I'm sure if you check Fans Hobby website, you can buy it from them direct, at least in the fullness of time. Also seeing we're going down the shield route. We've seen this before, I think, maybe not coloured images, but this is again from the Unicron trilogy. My gripe with this, as I remember, is you can get all three minicons that make the shield, but then you can get the cover for the shield to sit on. Just release a shield. If it looks a bit cleaner and if you're going to have Optimus and Megatron wield it, you're probably going to have the coloured shield to cover it up. So it doesn't bear anything to have three separate pieces make a shield form if you're going to put a cover over the top of it. Just release a 3D printed shield maybe. If you're really into this, if Armada is really your thing, you're probably really happy. You've got the Star Saber, you've got the shield, great, fine, more power to you. I would just say if it comes with a shield cover for a more cleaner aesthetic, maybe just release it as an accessory with the figures. But then going on to big boy territory, Tidal Wave, coming third quarter of 2024. Now, it was actually at TFCon. I've seen some images of it. It was the prototype version that's not fully decorated, not fully painted as I understand it. And this is much the same as what we see in the promotional shots, but we're seeing how it can combine and what it can do. So it's nice that it comes with little mini jets. I do like that. It is sizable. It is very leg heavy. I mean, you're looking next to that Meg Tyranno, their Armada Megatron. It's nearly all of that figure is Tidal Wave's legs, which proportions, I don't know if that looks a little off to me, or was he always leg heavy? Possibly was, but it's quite noticeable when I look at it and I think you're about 60% leg. But anyway, he's coming along nicely, standing at 405 millimeters, 45 centimeters, roughly 17 inches. So we're not quite at full MP scale or Titan scale. We're just big scale, which is a nice little vagueness for where Tidal Wave actually sits. And then we get images of Megatron into Super Megatron? Super Meg Tyranno? I forget what he's kind of called in this point, but I know he can deconstruct and then combine with their Meg Tyranno, much like the Legacy version did for Chuck. It does look very nice. I am tempted to put him in that mode because I do like that Megatron and I think he's going to look quite good armoured up, but I'm a bit of a Tidal Wave fan. I intend on getting the Legacy version in the fullness of time anyway, so I'm going to have two on the go. So yeah, it's nice to see. I'm in for this set. Really looking forward to it and hope it comes out very soon. And then on to MMC, who arguably stole the show. So let's start off with this. Now, Fortress Maximus, IDW, Fortress Maximus, reformatted Fortress Maximus. This was a fan-funded, I think is a better term. that never came to pass. I think they wanted about $400 for it, and it never took off. And it was kind of the big what if of what MMC could do with it. It had a lot of moving parts. They felt that they wanted to go down the crowdfunding route, and it didn't take off. It didn't come to pass. The only version of this out in the wild is Perfect Effects Warden, which I've been tempted to pick up once or twice. I think looks quite good, but a lot of people have called out for this. Now, as I understand it, as I've read online since, the word is that this is in full production from MMC. They have gone back to this, and it's not going to be crowdfunded, and it's well underway, which is very good news. I do like the fact that MMC do just kind of get on with it regardless, and this is evidence of that. Fancy any company going, we'd like a bit of crowdfunding for this. Okay, it didn't take off, but we're going to do it anyway. I can't imagine HasLab doing that. So that's how it looks. Apparently it's going to have Optus Pexus levels of articulation, which is going to be brilliant because that articulation is just crazy. And it transforms into a very nice tank. Let's say tank. Let's go with tank. It's got tank treads. It must be a tank. It looks good. Do I get this? Do I try and hold out for Perfect Effects Warden? Do I get both? I do like this for Fort Max. I think he's got a real kind of armory look to him. And MMC, I've said before, do so many more hits than misses. So I'm really looking forward to this. But the news is, of course, that Reformatted is not dead. There is this Megatron that was actually there, which is very much, I like to think of it as early Robots in Disguise IDW Megatron, but it's really just IDW Megatron. A bit of debate as to, it looks like a heavy remold of a previous release. I'm not entirely sure yet. I'm going to have to look at it a bit more and do some comparison shots. But the word is again that they're looking at the reformatted line. I think we're going to go down the IDW route once more, which I think is good because there's untapped potential there. There's still some characters they haven't done. I would have loved to have seen an MMC Ultra Magnus, the Iron Factory style that we got for Legend scale, but completely upscaled and done by MMC. So word is that they're going to go back to it, and I love that if that is the case, because they were the only ones in town doing it, and it just felt a bit fresh, it felt a bit different, and I was a bit sad when they said they were going to move away from that. So assuming they are going back to that, and this image of Megatron would like to suggest that they are, all the power to them. Groove was actually there in person. They showed some slide as well. This looks very, very close to being released, and we are going to be able to stand up a Defensor, which is nice. I'm not wild on the head sculpt, if I'm honest. I think he's got a really fat nose and really deep eyes, but I do like the bike mode. I think the bike mode's cleared up very nicely, and I do understand that bikes are very hard to do for Transformers, particularly putting it into combine mode. It's a very slender piece. I have said throughout that particularly when you look at the images of this Defensor, the feet look very stumpy, and that was my issue. And one reason why I didn't pick up their Bruticus, I felt it just looked very disproportionate to a figure, particularly with the chest. Particularly on Defensor, he's very deep, he's very stocky, that hotspot is very, very large, and the feet just don't quite add up to it. So I'm expecting an add-on kit to come out when all is said and done, and I will probably get it. And all I really want it for would be the feet. I quite like the hands and the rest of the figure, but yeah, just when you see the close-up leg shot, that's something that really sticks in my mind. But MMC, you're doing what you're doing, and I like it. Speaking on combiners, they're carrying on with their Ruination one. This is their shift lane. We've seen this before, but I believe that was actually there as well. But going on as well, we see a combined image. And again, I think that was actually there. I think there was a grey prototype of MMC's Devastator actually there, if I recall. It certainly made it to the slides, and we're going to see what an all-in-one MMC style Devastator is going to look like. The Devastator wars are well and truly underway. It does look a little bit squished, maybe. The arms don't look particularly as stocky as, say, the chest of the figure, or even the legs. The legs look very stocky. It's early days. No figure's even out yet, so I can't criticise too much, but particularly looking at the leg at Scrapper, it's a very thick thigh. Looking at the thigh on Motormaster, Mixmaster, wrong master. Looking at the thigh on Mixmaster, very thin by comparison. Again, the forearms can look quite thin. There's tweaks, there's changes. I'm not going to chastise them too much. It's early days. Going on, we see their toy releases of the MMC cassettes. I've got the Toon Accurate versions. They're very cool. If you want to have toy versions, these are going to look just as good with maybe a bit more stickerage and detailing for more toy accuracy plus toy accurate heads. Now, this was quite interesting. We've seen this a few times, and again, I think this was not at TFCon, but at another convention recently. We got their female Galvatron, which looks very nice. Keep going with the female Armada Megatron and female Tarn. So now we got female Galvatron, and this is the first time I think we see it in its alt mode, at least in this fully colour palette. I don't mind it the more I see it. Just that laughing face really puts me off. It's very much hexadecimal vibes from Reboot, that is. Cackling madness, which is befitting of the character. It's very femme in its structure, very slender, and the turret maybe in robot mode looks a little thin, doesn't look as menacing. I think it looks better in alt mode, in as much as the turret looks a bit more in keeping with the style and the scaling of the rest of it. But I just looked at it in now in bot mode, and I think, yeah, it's a little bit of a stick more than a big war destruction cannon. But I do like how it looks, particularly seeing it in this kind of presentation shot. And finally, we see Stray Swordsman, their version of a drift. We've seen this before, and again, I think it was there, but this is the first time we've seen it in alt mode, in full color deco, going for a sort of a Japanese drift, stripes going along it. I do like it. It's based on a Toyota model, Toyota AE86, I believe it was. So going for that kind of Japanese 80s rally car, stock car kind of vibe, and the paint scheme on it looks very, very nice. So yeah, I would like to say that MMC, Ocular Max MMC, kind of stole the show there with what they were showing. There was some good images out there. Fans Hobby did a bit, but was what we would typically expect from them. We know what we know they're working on. And I do think Fans Toys, they kind of left it a little bit limiting. I think we would like to know a little bit more about Fort Max, and I'd like to know a bit more about Chrome Dome, because we got it teased once and we haven't heard since. And I think Scrapper's not going to be far away, and I think Ultra Magnus is being worked on. I don't doubt they're not being worked on, but things like this is your time to show it off. But some takeaway points: we know how Menasor is going to finish, and we know that Berserk will actually come out. And there we go, that's a roundup of the third-party reveals from the third-party panel at TFCon in Toronto in 2024. Let me know what you guys think. Is there anything there that you're particularly looking for, anything that you're really interested for, or maybe a little bit disappointed that you didn't have shown to you, something that you were anticipating that didn't come out? I think there's more stuff to come, and there's going to be other conventions coming as the year finishes off, so let's see what else comes out. And of course, through the own channels of the own third-party companies, as they tend to do more of these days. But anyway, thanks for watching, and as always, I will see you on the next one.